Everyone, Russ of Aquarimax here. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream, but now we're going to get into it. I figured I would start out by giving a little bit of an update on the frogs and doing a live feeding, and then we will get underway with the Q&A. So you can see the plants are growing well. This bromeliad particularly has really turned out nice and red. At least I think it's red. I'm kind of colorblind, but I think that's the color it looks like. This fern is coming back, kind of slowly, but it is coming back. The selaginella over here has gone crazy. Got a fern coming up in the corner, a tiny little fern behind the selaginella, a little hard to see. But of course we've got tadpoles as well. And so now I'm going to start feeding the tadpoles, or start feeding the frogs, sorry. I'm going to feed the frogs some Heidi-eye fruit flies. We'll watch them do that for a minute. Ant Scotland, hello there, welcome. You are the first commenter in the stream. So I'm glad you're here. Oh, Gordius is in too. Let's see. Let's see how long it takes the flies. Robert Gear is also in. Asylum JK, hey! I'm excited too. Thanks for joining the live stream. Yep, you're right, Gordius. Frog feeding. Pretty excited about that. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome. I'm not sure. Lintabata, how do you say your name? I'm glad you're enjoying the live stream. Oh, look, first frog. It's one of my females here on the right there. Ah, cool. You use live feeders for your ants, Ant Scotland. Seen some good insect and breeding feeders videos. Cool. Oh, good. I said it right. Nice. Brooklyn Jungles. Hello, fellas. Zercool. Wazah. You're in the house as well. Nice to see you back. What is this? Why do I only have one eating here? Gordius says I caught a ferocious water bug half a year ago. It's still alive and well. Nice. Those things are crazy. I once caught one, found one that had hit a lamp and landed up under the bus stop. It's kind of crazy. Well, you're welcome, Ant Scotland. I'm glad the videos have been useful to you for your ants. Do you keep a lot of different species of ants? I'm assuming with a name like Ant Scotland, you probably have quite a few different types. Cool Kid Awesome. Hey, welcome. Good to see you back too. Well, I wish I spoke what Vladimir speaks, but I don't. Robert Gear says, so I finally upgraded my leopard gecko to a bioactive enclosure, and I'm so happy I did. Good! I'm really glad. It's so much better. So I'm glad you're in the same camp. And Festicat says, are those baby red-eyed tree frogs? Well, these are bumblebee dart frogs. Festicat, thanks for asking. This is actually an adult female. She's produced some tadpoles, or she or her sister, I'm not sure which one. And this is, oh, I guess that answers their cool questions too. I have 3 of them in here, but the other 2 are kind of shy right now, which is weird because usually they go crazy when I start feeding them. So, yeah, Blue Basin Aquatics, hello and welcome. Is it a skink? Yeah, not quite, but I know you're kidding, so. So, Cool Kid Awesome says, RJ hasn't shed in a while, do you might know? Well, is the temperature cooling down at all in the enclosure? Robert asks, how are the tadpoles doing? Doing well. The largest tadpole's legs are bigger than he was when I filmed that bit with the video that I recently released. And I've got 2 more tadpoles right now. I'm going to need to put another deli cup in there and see what I get. But for now, I've got 3 tadpoles, and they're all growing. So, Ant Scotland, you have ants, tarantulas, mantises, snails, scorpions, and a lovely bearded dragon. Oh, nice collection. Oh, you can see the toe tapping. I love the toe tapping. Did you see her toe tapping there? That's funny. Mr. Snake, oh, you're back too. And this is a bumblebee dart frog, for those of you who are coming in. The scientific name is Dendrobates leucomelis. And, oh, you want to see the enclosure? Okay, let's zoom out and check a look at the enclosure. Okay. Ooh, here we go. This is a 29-gallon converted aquarium. There we go. You can see the whole thing. I built this summer and put the frogs in shortly thereafter. It's been maybe a couple months since I put them in, I think, something like that. Well, cool kid, awesome. That is a good thing you've got pretty good temperatures in there. Is he eating and everything just fine? Gordia says, I'm on the fence if I should get dart frogs. I've already got a bird and the water bug. Well, oh, look, there's another dart frog coming in. Check it out. Oh, who is that? Got to see which one that is. Hiding again. They're usually a lot bolder than this. I don't know what's going on. They're just camera shy right now. Okay, cool. Well, I'm glad you like it. And Robert Gear says, what substrate do you have in there again? This is any herps substrate for moist vivariums. They have, they're just called any herb vivarium substrate, I guess. They have a version 1 and a version 2. This is version 1 for very humid vivariums. Oh, there's my other female, looks like, right there. Yep. Yep, that's my other female. I recognize them by their patterns. This one has a kind of a saddle across the hips that's just 2 bars. I don't know if you can see that. And then this one over here has got a little divot in the hip saddle. And then the male has the negative divot. It's a black one on a yellow background instead of a yellow one on a black background. So I can tell them all apart pretty easily that way. Okay, let's see. And there are just 3 in here, 3 adults, and then there are possibly some tadpoles maturing in here right now. I've got 3 tadpoles in the other room. And can different kinds of frogs live in the same enclosure? Well, some people do it. I've seen it done. In fact, when I started, I had an auratus because the frogs were gifts. I got this trio and then an auratus that came with them. So there were 2 different species in there. So it can be done. Not necessarily ideal, but it's possible. I don't think it's the best thing for the frogs in general, and definitely not if you want to get them breeding. So I would tend to avoid doing that. Mr. Snake says, I'm going to try to set up my spare 40-gallon breeder aquarium as a heavily planted bioactive vivarium. I will probably house Dendrobates tinctorius azureus, ooh, one of my favorites, or Phyllobates terribilis. Wow, both very nice frogs. Oh, I see my male in the far corner. I don't know if you can see him. Let's see. There's his head back there in the middle of the screen right now. He's kind of hiding. Cool Kid Awesome says you give him 4 worms and 8 crickets before I go to school. Then when I get back, I give him 4 worms and 4 crickets. Cool. Okay. Is he eating veggies? And has he got his calcium supplementation too? Asylum JK, any separation with the background again? Holding up? Okay. Seems to be doing fine. I think once we put the silicone around the edges of the setup, that really helped. That helped a lot. So, yep. It seems to be doing fine. Thank you for asking. And Aunt Scotland says those patterns are stunning. Thank you. I think so too. I really like them. Here are the two ladies posing for a photo. Looks like they've just about finished up their flies. Well, I think that means that I'm going to back up here and switch over to face view. Hello. I'm going to try not to crash as I do this. I'm going to switch over and hook myself up to the tripod, and we'll continue the Q&A that way. Sorry for the hand in the middle of the camera. I always have a problem with that. It's tricky. So, all right, I'm going to stay out of the lamplight so I'm not frying your eyes there. Let's see if I do that, something like that. Here, I'm going to actually turn off the lights maybe just for a second. Be right back. You can enjoy the video of my cat in the meantime. And here we come, coming back. Okay, And you're giving him romaine lettuce, okay? That is good, although I would recommend if you can give him some other veggies too, mix it up. That should help him in general. I don't know if it'll help with the shedding issue specifically, but it will help in general. So Festicat, can I add 2 different colors of dart frogs in the same habitat? Some people do. I would recommend against different varieties of dart frogs in the same habitat, but some people do it. And Mike Kinseth, how are the tadpoles doing? Doing really well, growing fast. The biggest one's got legs and he's starting to move them. Not just little stubs of legs, but when he swims around, he started to kick them around, so that's kind of fun. Ant Scotland, any experience with inverts? Yes, indeed. I have quite a few. I've got a big collection of isopods, 19 different types of isopod. I've got a giant Asian mantis, I have 2 giant vinegaroons, 4 Scolopendra polymorphous centipedes. I've got tailless whip scorpions, Damon diadema. I've got quite a few species. I've got more than that too. It's a couple of different scorpions. I've got an Asian forest scorpion and Coahuila devil scorpion. So yeah, and I've kept quite a few others, and of course the feeders and things as well. Robert Gear says, what substrate do you like to use for isopods, and does it vary with the species? In general, I like to use the same, and my isopod substrate, the one I'm using now, you can use a lot of different things, honestly, but the one that I use now is based on Mickey M's, it's called the Very Fussy Millipede substrate. It's in a thread on arachnoboards. I base mine on that one, and it is basically organic compost, 1 part organic compost, 1 part fallen hardwood leaves, dried, and then 1 part wood products. I generally use aspen shavings and alder pellets used for barbecue grills that have been soaked, and so they're like sawdust. And mix that up, add a little calcium, and that's what I've been using lately, and I think it's better than what I've used before. You can use cocoa fiber and just toss leaves on top of it. It works, but this works better. They breed better on it, and so on. When was the last time you saw Cooper? Cool Kid Awesome says. That's Cool Kid Awesome's dog. He's a very cool dog, by the way. He's a corgi, and he is, let's see, when was the last time I saw him? It's been a while. I don't know. When was the last time you walked by with him? It's been a couple months, I think. Ooh, the audio's out of sync. Oh no. So setting up a vivarium that size is very expensive. Well, 40 gallons it can be, yeah. This, my frog vivarium was pretty expensive, 29 gallon. So is the audio back? I hope so. Ant Scotland says, what's your opinion on ants? Well, I've kept ants before. I had a colony of ants. I don't even know what species they were. This was how many years ago? Maybe 18 years ago or something like that. I had a colony that I collected, starting with the queens. When you find the queens after they've mated and they've ripped their wings off and they're running around looking for a place to build a colony. I took 3 or 4 queens, and I made a test tube setup where you put the water in the test tubes, plug it with cotton, and you attach them with tubing to different containers and so on, and hot glue them in. Did that, and one of the queens killed the other queens, which I hear is common in many species. And after they had produced, a few babies, I think it was. And let's see. Yeah, I had that colony for about 3 years, and it did really well. It was fun. Really, really well. Let's see. Everything Created says, hi, I'm looking for some type of dart frog that can be kept in higher densities. I would love that one that could live in a group of 4 in a 20 gallon. Well, we've been talking about this, haven't we? I think most dart frogs, the general guideline is 1 per 10 gallons, but that's not true for the thumbnail dart frogs. But unfortunately, I don't know a lot about the thumbnail dart frogs. So I've seen, setups with them in them and so on, but I don't really know a lot about it. It might be something worth looking into for that, but yeah, I kept 3 in a 20 gallon and they did okay. I mean, it can be done. It also depends, in my opinion, partly on how you build it. So if you build it so the frogs have a lot of surface area that's actually usable, for example, in the one I built that I showed just a minute ago, I tried to build it so that the frogs could crawl up the sides and have different levels they could play around on and use all of that space. And then I feel like they have more effective space, and so you can probably fit more in a setup like that than you could in one where they can't climb up the wall. So that's something to consider. That might help. Kenneth Reyes says, is mold a common problem with millipede substrate? Does the tank smell? In general, mold can appear. Springtails are a good way to keep mold down. They help a lot. But you can sometimes have mold in there. It's another good thing that can help with that is when you feed wet foods like moist fruits that are kind of drippy, put them on in like a plastic lid or something like that so that it doesn't drip into the soil. That can help with that too. So those are two things that can help. Does the tank smell? Typically it smells like dirt. Like you put your nose down to the forest floor, moist soil and forest floor, and smell that, that's how it smells. So it's not bad. I kind of like that smell actually. Cool Kid Awesome. Shall I crash the live stream with Cooper then? Well, you know what? That would actually be cool sometime, but we have to be careful about minors on the channel without, like, I have to look into parental consent and stuff like that. So let me find out about that first. And then maybe we could do that sometime because that'd be fun. Oh, 1000 Geckos is in. 1000 Gecko says, excited for your tadpoles. I'm hoping my painted mantellas will breed. That would be cool. Salvo Smith, hey, hello, and welcome. Mr. Snake says, I'm running a breeding project with my ball pythons. Oh, which morphs do you have? 1000 Gecko said, thumbnails, you could probably do a 4 in a 20 gallon. I have 5 in a 30 and they do pretty well. Gonna split them soon though. Cool, well that's good, some good information then. Yeah, because I think it would be cool if Cooper came. Cool Kid Awesome. We just need to figure that out about how that works. Robert Gear says, will you be selling any of the baby millipedes? Most likely, yes. I have sold, when I bred, well, I guess I've sold a couple of different kinds. When I bred flamelangs, I sold a lot of the babies there, and I've sold some bumblebees as well. So yeah, I'll be selling some ivories too. I'm not sure how many I'll have this time around, but quite a few, I think, maybe up to 50. And yeah, I'll sell them as soon as they get big enough. Probably about 1.5 to 2 inches, and assuming the weather is suitable. Elaine Smith says, can you use aquarium charcoal in a springtails culture? Yes, you can. You can use charcoal just fine from an aquarium charcoal. I would say what you'd want to do, it's actually kind of nice to have the smaller pieces that aquarium charcoal has, because then you've got a lot of surface area for the springtails, but you'll just want some larger pieces or some pieces of cork bark or something like that you can put on top of the culture, so when you want to collect and where you can feed them and so on. And when you want to collect them, you just pick up those larger pieces and hit them together over a collection container. If you do, you know, you can't really do that if they're just the small aquarium charcoal pieces. So do something like that and you're good to go. Oh, Cooper, Cool Kid Awesome actually happens to live just down the street from me, and Cooper is his dog. So he's got a really cool corgi, beautiful dog. Aunt Scotland says, I kept tadpoles once scooped out of a pond. They were going to get eaten by trout. I took 50-ish home, and a month later, after feeding for weeks, teeny wee frogs were basking on the shallow side. Yep, I love to do that. I have done that several times. Did that as a kid quite a few times with various species of frog, and it was a lot of fun. This is my first time having tadpoles where the eggs were laid here and, you know, going through the whole process. But as far as raising eggs and or tadpoles, I've done that before, and it is a lot of fun. 1000 Geckos says, how many total tadpoles have you got? Can we see some? Ooh, is anybody in the room who can go grab some for me? I do want to show you some. I'll do that soon. Whether or not it's in this live stream, I'm not sure, but I will show you some. Right now I have 3 that I know of. Asylum JK says, temperate versus tropical springtails, thoughts? Okay. Well, I have raised both, and I think it depends on the species, because there are a lot of different species within that. The 2 species I've worked with the most are Fulsomia candida, a temperate species. They're kind of longer bodied. And the other one is Cinella curvicetta, which are a little bit shorter bodied and a little hairier looking. And I think those are the tropical ones. Temperate ones breed faster. I think they're better if you're going to use them to feed to fish. But if you put them both together in a container, the tropical ones, Cinella curvicetta, tend to win out. They tend to outcompete the others. But in terms of, and I don't think fish like to eat them quite as much because they're a little bit fuzzy, but I don't think, I mean, they still eat them, so it's probably not that big of a deal. I would say it just depends on what you want to do, what you're going to use them for. But once again, the biggest advantage of the temperate are that they breed faster. And the biggest advantage of the tropicals is that they seem to be more tenacious. So if you have those, they're going to win out against the temperates, at least in the situations I've had them in. Salvo Smith said, that's a question I always forgot to ask you. Do breeding stars appear in male goldfish, Blackmore too, even if the male is kept on his own, or appears only males that live with other goldfish? You know, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I have, whenever I've had goldfish display breeding stars, they've always been with at least one female goldfish, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily the way it goes. I don't think I've ever kept a male goldfish in a solitary situation, so I'm not sure. That's a great question. Any of you out there, goldfish keepers, have you ever seen males display breeding stars when they haven't been with a female? Very good question. Mr. Snake says, I have a 750 gram pastel super yellow belly, aka pastel ivory. I have a 2,500 gram pinstripe, and I just recently acquired a 1,200 gram pastel yellow belly fader. Wow. So you've got some pretty fancy morphs there. That's cool. Pastel ivory is male and the other two are female. Nice. Pasture Prime says, can you use a lid on an infusoria culture? I'm not sure if any other contaminant would find their way in. Well, yes. I would use a very well ventilated lid, something like chiffon, that you've used a rubber band to fasten there, or maybe if you made the infusoria culture in a deli cup, you could use a lid, like a vented lid used for fruit fly culture, something like that you could use. I just wouldn't use anything that might restrict ventilation, because you're going to need the exchange of oxygen at the surface of the water. But yeah, you could do that. 1000 Gecko says, Mr. Snake, I have a banana and a few others. Banana morph is my favorite. Cool. Yeah, there's some amazing ball python morphs out there, that's for sure. Ant Scotland says, in the current state, I have 4 aquatic African dwarf frogs living in my community fish tank. Love watching them come up for air and feeding and enjoying life. They are fun. I've kept those quite a few times. I had a pair of them that actually produced tadpoles for me. It surprised me. Cool Kid Awesome. Yeah, that was my daughter's puffer. She had a puffer fish that passed away. That was sad. So, Everything Created said, have you ever had platyfish? I've had a school of them in a 50 gallon for about 6 months or so. Oh, I'm losing it. And no complaints. They're also breeding like crazy. I have had platyfish. They were my first, not my first, maybe my second live bear that I ever had. I had a couple Mickey Mouse platies, or platies, depending on how you pronounce it and where you're from. It's been a while though. Maybe about 18 years ago or so, I set up a paludarium, and I had some anoles in the land part, and I had some platies in the water part, and it was kind of a how could you say, it was almost a aquaponics situation, because I had pothos plants growing in the water and out of the water, and so the platies would produce babies in there, and they produced quite a few babies. I would thin them out once in a while. And I didn't actually do a lot of water changes, because the pothos would grow like crazy and kept the water pretty clean. I had a filter that would pump the water up through the land area, through the gravel, and back in. So it was a pretty cool system, and the platies were fun in there. 1000 Gecko says, I have African dwarf frogs that bred. My favorite aquatic animal. The eggs hatched, just couldn't raise the tadpoles. That was my deal too. Produced tadpoles for me, and I wasn't expecting it, and so I didn't have, brine shrimp or anything like that, because they need moving food. Unlike most tadpoles, they have to have moving food to recognize it as food. So I tried vinegar eels and things that I had at the time, but wasn't quite ready for it, so I lost the tadpoles. But it was cool that they had produced some. Crystal, hey, Crystal Casares is in. Nice to see you here. Robert Gear said, could you keep African dwarf frogs with a short fin betta? Yeah, what 1000 Gecko is saying, that is very true. They could end up, nipping at each other. It depends. I think it's kind of a, you can try it but have a backup plan sort of thing. And you also have to use, well, if you have them both together like that, you have to use some method of getting the frog food that the betta is not going to steal, because typically the bettas are a lot faster to get to the food than the frogs are, and so they might outcompete the frog and make it starve to death. So if you can work out something like that, some people will take their their dwarf frog out a couple of times a week and feed it in a separate container and then put it back. That kind of thing can work, but it can be difficult, can work, kind of depends on the individual personalities of the betta especially. Charles Wilson asks, how do you cut a sponge filter round? I have cut sponge filters just with scissors. It works fairly well. I mean, it might not be exactly round, but depending on the sponge filter size and so on, if it's one you can comfortably get between the blades of scissors, then it works just fine. And Aunt Scotland says, well, it's been lovely. It's almost 1 a.m. here in Scotland. Have a lovely day, and I'll join again soon. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you joined us, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Pasture Prime says, thank you for answering. Would you recommend microworms or vinegar eels? Just remind me which one we're talking about. So you're talking about infusoria cultures first, and then what are we talking about now? Just let me know. Are we talking about first food for betta fry or what? I would be happy to help you with that. Everything Created says, I do things really different, not by the textbook. I use lava rocks and terrestrial plants in my filter, as well as a lot of live plants in the tank. I do water changes most of the time. And that is, the aquaponics method. If you have plenty of healthy plant mass growing, you can keep water conditions pretty suitable if you're doing that. I'm actually doing a little aquaponics project right now. I'm just starting it. I got some nice cuttings of my parents' pothos plant, so I know they haven't used pesticides on it in the past 30 years that they've had the plant. And so I took some cuttings from it when I was visiting them recently and put it in my endlers tank, because right now I have such a large number of endlers that it's really hard to keep the algae from growing. I have some plants growing in there, and they're growing, but at the same time there's a lot of algae and they're kind of fighting. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is get the pothos to grow really vigorously outside, inside the tank, but also most of the plant mass is going to be outside the tank where it's getting atmospheric CO2. That's going to help me reduce the nutrient load because it's way too high in there. 1000 Gecko says, if you put multiple blackworms in and they will stay in the gravel, then when they poke out, the frogs will eat them for food. If you were to do that, if you primarily feed them blackworms. That makes sense. I've heard of people doing that. I've never really used blackworms myself. It's one of the few common live foods that I haven't played with a lot. So Crystal Casari says, I love betta fish. I'm setting up a fish tank for one. Awesome. I think they're great. They're one of the most beautiful fish, and they're a lot of personality in a small package, so it's a good choice. Oh, and Mr. Snake's going to tell us about his possibilities. Okay, cool kid, awesome. Oh, okay. We can do that. Mr. Snake says 13 chance super pastel, super yellow belly, positive fader, and 25% super yellow belly pastel, positive fader, and 13% super pastel yellow belly, positive fader. Wow. You can have some, I think it's pretty amazing people who can play with all these morphs with species like ball pythons that have so many different morphs, or leopard geckos have a lot, or corn snakes have a lot. It's quite amazing. It's like a big aspect of the hobby is figuring out the genetics, and it's pretty interesting. Robert Gear is going to get a tank for a koi betta. Those koi bettas are pretty cool. Oh, okay. So Pasture Prime says, I keep a wide variety of fish from rams, zebraplex to CPD, so in general nutrient-wise. Definitely, if that's what you're looking at, then I would say microworms. The zebraplecos, of course, are not going to be interested. The rams, probably not, except the ram fry. If you're breeding fry, definitely you can use them. The CPDs, they'll take them from very young to adulthood. So yeah, nutrient-wise, microworms are superior. You can actually change their nutrient profiles, improve their nutrient profiles by what you feed them. That's kind of hard to do with vinegar eels because they have such a narrow range of items that they can eat. So definitely the microworms in that case. Elaine Smith says, I forgot to tell you your lecture video was fantastic. I've watched it several times. Well, excellent. Glad to hear that. That always makes me happy. Glad it's been useful. And 1000 Gecko said, when I do go on vacation, I do that so that they don't need to be fed over that time. Sorry, I'm getting behind. I'm getting confused a little bit. Sorry, folks. Okay. Oh, I see, Mr. Snake. Okay, there's a couple more possibilities there too. So that is pretty amazing. It's fun stuff. Are you going to post videos of the babies when you have them? That would be cool on your channel. Dr. Spud is in. Excellent. Glad you were able to catch. And Mark Osborne too. Great. Mark says, hey Russ, harvested 60 tilapia for my aquaponics setup Saturday. Pepper plants, basil, chard, mint, etc. Pothos is a good start. Excellent. You know, I've thought that I want to do herbs and things like that in the house as well, like some basil, mint, maybe some other things. Maybe with the goldfish tank, change that to an aquaponic setup, but one that has, you know, try to make that one maybe aesthetically more like an aquascape, but still be an aquaponics setup, kind of like Function Built Aquatics does for the goldfish tank. Thought about it, might do that. Cool. So Pasture Prime says, thanks again. I stumbled across your channel earlier today, so I'm unaware to what fish you have enjoyed breeding the most. Well, let's see. I've bred, I'm going to say, somewhere around 20 different species. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but it's hard to say which one I've enjoyed breeding the most. I mean, bettas were really fun to watch the whole process and the parental care at the beginning, and seeing how all the fish came out differently. I really like that. I really like bristlenose plecos because I think it's fun to watch the male take care of them and then watch them develop from such tiny little fish. But you know, they come out of the nest usually pretty fully formed. That's fun. I like the shell dwellers. I've enjoyed breeding the shell dwellers. It was fun breeding Celestial Pearl Danios, just because when I did, they were kind of new. I was breeding wild caught ones. That was fun. I don't know. I really enjoy breeding my Blue Star Indlers because they're so easy. So it just depends. I don't know. There's so many, and they're so fun. I think breeding fish, it's like what the Bailey brothers used to say when they did the pet fish talk. They said, keeping fish is really fun. Breeding fish is 10 times more fun. It just makes the whole thing more fun. I agree. It is just more fun. Oh, congratulations, Dr. Spud, on your orchid mantis nymph. That is awesome. That's a species we definitely want to get. My wife likes those, so I already have the go-ahead to get one of those sometime. Right now I'm just trying to get my giant Asian mantis to do well. I mean, I think she's doing fine at this point. She's got one more molt to go before she's an adult, and has grown from the size of a mosquito till, you know, she's about this big. So doing pretty well. Let's see. Crazy Wild Baby said someone dropped off some goldfish in a butter container bowl, so I have 3 new pets today. Wow. Do you already have a tank for them and everything? Hopefully. Oh, Mr. Snake, that sounds like a pretty dog that you have. Pasture Prime says, my male has been protecting the eggs for 2 days. Funny enough. Huh, that's cool. Cool Kid Awesome, how will your crickets be next week? I think I'll have a lot of crickets next week. It should be good. I have a fair bit of crickets right now. They're just kind of young, most of them. I mean, I have adults, but most of them are kind of young. But Dr. Spud, the little mantis loves my buffalo beetle larva. Cool. She looks like she might molt soon. Nice. And good. Crazy Wild Baby already has a cycled tank that you just keep. That's a good way to do it. Pasture Prime, I'm hoping to, but I think I may have to lower the pH at 1000 geckos there. 4+ years olds are certainly in their prime. Oh, you're going to breed the zebra plecos. Just found them on the porch in the bowl, the goldfish. Crazy Wild Baby. Yeah, it's kind of funny how that can happen sometimes. When word gets out that you're someone who keeps pets, you get some interesting requests or surprises. Huh? Well, oh, Mr. Snake, congratulations on your baby Kenyan sand boa. His first shed. Nice. Well, that is cool. It's fun to watch creatures grow up in all the different ways, whether it's a snake or a mantis that sheds its skin all at once, or you see other signs of growth. It's just kind of a fun thing. And you feel like a little triumph. Well, they've made this step to success, so I love that. All right. Cool Kid Awesome says, let's see Tiki. That I can probably do because I'm not very far away. Let me see if I can do that just a second. I'll be right back. No, sorry, I was gone for a second there. Hopefully I didn't lose. Okay, well thank you, Mark, for joining us. I always appreciate it when you join in, and I'm glad you did. So Tiki says, goodbye, Mark, and thanks for joining us. And so do I. So here's Tiki. I was able to get her out. And Mr. Snake says, I want to get a scorpion, but I have a deadly allergy to insect stings. Ah. Well, I don't know how the scorpion would compare to the insect stings, but it might be safer to, yeah, just err on the safe side. Asylum JK says, headed out, finishing up the last of the vivarium build before the next step, planting. Thanks for all you do, Russ. Truly inspiring. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and good luck with your vivarium build. Hope it goes well for you. And Dr. Spud says, my aquarium got infested with cyanobacteria, which I know happens to me a lot. And after a few weeks of darkness, it looks like it's safe to turn the light back on. Good. That is such a frustrating business dealing with cyanobacteria, and sometimes blackout is a good way to deal with it. Ah, thank you. We think she's beautiful, and she's a very gentle, fun gecko to have, so thank you. And, oh, thank you, Crystal, and Armanesta, and Mike, and Elaine. Thank you. Pasture Prime says, oh, sorry, Tiki. Says, I'm on my 8th aquarium, unfortunately no monster tanks. The joy of breeding fish is certainly what makes me feel like a kid at Christmas. Yep, I know that feeling. And I've never done a monster tank myself. The largest tank I've ever had is a 55, so not very big. But I still enjoy it. It doesn't have to be a giant tank to be an excellent, beautiful thing in your life. Yeah. Tiki recently was laying eggs again. We got a picture of one of the eggs, put it on the community tab. Are you going to go to the bathroom? I think she is. I'm going to put her back. I'll be right back. Yep. She sometimes does that when it's time to wake up. So I'm going to have to go put her back in. Well, thank you for joining me. I got to go. Got a lot of stuff going on today, so I'm really glad you joined me for the live stream, and stay tuned for my next video on Friday.